Now look who you trusted with your money.
The dinner plates were still warm when my wife's sister called me a loser for the third time that evening. I should have seen it coming the moment Sherry walked through my front door in her fake designer heels, trailing her latest conquest like a show poodle. "Pete, honey," Marcy said, her voice dripping with that special brand of condescension she'd perfected over our 15 years of marriage. "Maybe you could tell Trent about your career advancement opportunities in sanitation management." She said it made garbage collection sound like a communicable disease. Trent DeLuca, Sherry's new boyfriend, flashed his veneered teeth in what passed for a smile. Everything about him screamed cryptocurrency scammer, from his slick-back hair to his gold chain that probably turned his neck green. "Sanitation, huh?" Trent leaned back in my chair at my dining room table, eating food I'd paid for. "That's honest work, I guess. Me, I'm in financial consulting. Crypto, mainly. Made 6 figures last quarter alone. Practically purred. Trent's teaching me about blockchain technology. It's so sophisticated." My mother-in-law, Mrs. Lutz, nodded approvingly from across the table. Finally, someone in this family with ambition. The barb hit its mark. Marcy giggled, that high-pitched sound that used to charm me but now reminded me of nails on a chalkboard. "Mom, be nice. Pete works very hard picking up other people's trash." "Shirts, someone has to," I said, cutting my pot roast with more force than necessary. "Without guys like me, guys like Trent here would be swimming in their own garbage." Trent's smile faltered for just a second. "Well, sure, but don't you want more? I mean, I started with nothing and now I'm pulling in serious money. Just last week, I helped a client make 40 grand on a single trade." $40,000? Sherry's eyes went wide. "In 1 week?" "1 trade," Trent corrected, puffing up like a peacock. "That's the beauty of crypto. Traditional investments are for suckers. The real money is in alternative currencies, decentralized finance, NFT portfolios." He might as well have been speaking Klingon, but the women hung on every word. Even Marcy leaned forward, her wine-stained teeth gleaming in the overhead light. "Maybe you could give Pete some tips," she suggested. God knows we could use the money. The "we" stung, like she contributed anything beyond her pathetic Instagram influencer income, hawking diet pills and beauty products to her 847 followers. "I'd be happy to help," Trent said, his tone suggesting he'd rather teach financial literacy to a goldfish. "Though crypto isn't for everyone. It takes a certain mindset, vision, the ability to see beyond the conventional. Transuption. It takes someone who isn't a garbage man." I excused myself to get another beer, mostly to keep from saying something I'd regret. In the kitchen, I checked my phone out of habit. The news alert that popped up made me smile for the first time all evening. Cryptocurrency scam artist arrested in Ponzi scheme. Investors lose millions in DeLuca digital fraud. The photo showed a different Trent DeLuca, but the family resemblance was unmistakable. Same slicked hair, same gold chain, same smarmy expression. I screenshot the article and slipped the phone back into my pocket. When I returned to the dining room, Trent was in full swing, describing his investment philosophy to my captivated audience. "The key is diversification across multiple blockchain platforms. I've got positions in Bitcoin, Ethereum, some smaller altcoins that are about to explode. My portfolio's up 300% this year." 300%? Mrs. Lutz gasped. "Pete, are you listening to this?" "Every word," I said, setting my beer down carefully. "Trent, you wouldn't happen to be related to the DeLuca family from Pittsburgh, would you?" His face went pale. "Why do you ask?" Pull out my phone, pretending to scroll casually. "Oh, just saw an interesting news story about a Trent DeLuca in the crypto business. Thought it might be you." The color drained from his face completely. That's a different guy. Common name." "Really? Because he looks just like you. Same hair, same..." I tilted the phone toward him. "Same gold chain." Trent lunged for my phone, but I was ready. I jerked it back, and his momentum carried him forward, right into my beer bottle. The contents splashed across his white silk shirt, leaving a brown stain that looked suspiciously like the kind of mess I cleaned up for a living. "Crap!" he yelped, jumping up. "This shirt cost $400. "Language, Trent," I said mildly. "There are ladies present." Marcy was on her feet, glaring at me. "Pete, what is wrong with you?" "Must have been an accident," I said, not bothering to hide my smirk. "Sorry about your shirt, Trent. Though if you're making 6 figures a quarter, $400 shouldn't be a problem, right?" He was already backing toward the door, Sherry trailing behind him with apologies and promises to pay for dry cleaning. Mrs. Lutz followed them out, muttering about my juvenile behavior. Maya waited until the front door slammed before turning on me. "That was embarrassing," she hissed. "These people are important to me, Pete. Sherry's finally found someone with potential, and you have to ruin it with your petty jealousy." "Petty jealousy?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Marcy, the guy's a fraud. I just showed you proof. You showed me some random news article about someone with the same name. God, Pete, you're so paranoid. Just because you've given up on improving your life doesn't mean everyone else has." She'd storm upstairs, leaving me alone with the dirty dishes and the lingering scent of Trent's expensive cologne. I started clearing the table, stacking plates with the mechanical precision of someone who'd spent 20 years in waste management. That's when I saw it. Marcy's phone, forgotten in her rush to defend her sister's boyfriend. The screen was still lit, showing the last app she'd been using. Text messages. I shouldn't have looked. I knew that even as my finger hovered over the screen. But something in Trent's panicked expression when I'd mentioned the news article nagged at me. And Marcy's defense of him had been awfully quick, awfully passionate. The first message thread was innocuous enough. Plans for tomorrow's shopping trip with Sherry. Complaints about my attitude problem. Standard wife stuff. But the second thread made my blood run cold. The contact was listed as T, and the messages went back 3 weeks. T. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Pete working late again? Impartial. Until 8. Plenty of time. Tension. T. Your husband's an idiot. How did someone like you end up with a garbage man? Mailbox. Don't remind me. Sometimes I wonder what my life would be like if I'd made better choices. T. You still can. Life's too short to waste on losers. The messages got progressively more explicit from there. Photos I definitely wasn't supposed to see. Plans for secret meetings. Discussions about my work schedule, my habits, my weaknesses. The final message was from earlier today. T. After tonight, we'll know if he suspects anything. If he does, we might need to accelerate our timeline. Relinquishy. What do you mean? T. I know people who can help with difficult husbands. One way or another, you're going to be free of him soon. My hands were shaking as I set the phone down. 20 years of marriage. 15 years of putting up with her family's condescension, her constant complaints about money, her growing distance and coldness. And this was how it ended. Not with a conversation or even an argument, but with secret messages and threats from a small-time con artist who probably couldn't spell cryptocurrency without spell check. I finished cleaning the kitchen in a daze, my mind racing through the implications. The photos alone would be enough for a divorce, but the mention of people who can help with difficult husbands suggested something more sinister. Marcy came downstairs an hour later, dressed for bed but still radiating anger. I hope you're proud of yourself, she said. Sherry texted me. Trent's humiliated. He might not want to see her anymore because of your little stunt. That would be a shame, I said, not looking up from the newspaper I was pretending to read. Don't be sarcastic, Pete. This isn't funny. Sherry's been through 2 divorces already. She deserves happiness. Everyone deserves happiness, I agreed. The question is what we're willing to do to get it. Something in my tone must have registered because she paused, studying my face. What's that supposed to mean? I folded the newspaper carefully and stood up. It means maybe I should take up investing, Marcy. I've already lost everything else tonight. He stared at me for a long moment, confusion flickering across her features. Then she shook her head and headed back upstairs. You're being weird, Pete. We'll talk about this tomorrow when you're thinking clearly. But I was thinking clearly, clearer than I had in months. As I listened to her footsteps on the stairs, I was already making plans. Trash day was coming, and I had a lot of garbage to dispose of. I woke up at 4:30, same as always. 20 years of getting up before dawn had turned it into muscle memory. But instead of heading straight to the shower, I went to the garage and pulled out a dozen heavy-duty trash bags. By the time the sun came up, Marcy's entire wardrobe was neatly bagged and stacked at the curb. Her shoes, her makeup, her collection of self-help books about manifesting abundance. All of it waiting for the morning pickup. I was sitting on the front porch with my coffee when she discovered my handiwork. "Pete!" The shriek could have shattered windows. "What the hell is this?" "Spring cleaning," I said, not looking up from my newspaper. Figured it was time to get rid of some things we don't need anymore. She stood in the driveway in her bathrobe, staring at the bags like they contained radioactive waste. Neighbors were starting to peek out of their windows, drawn by the commotion. "You can't do this. These are my things." "Were your things," I corrected. "Now they're trash, and trash goes to the curb on Tuesday mornings. I should know. I'm in sanitation management." Repust Mrs. Peterson from next door had come out to get her newspaper and was making no effort to hide her curiosity. Across the street, the Johnsons were openly gawking from their front window. "You're insane," Marcy hissed, trying to keep her voice down. "Completely insane. I'm calling my lawyer." "Good idea," I said. "While you're at it, you might want to call Trent. Let him know his timeline just got accelerated." Color drained from her face. "What are you talking about?" I pulled her phone from my pocket and tossed it to her. She caught it reflexively, then stared at it like it might bite her. "You forgot this last night. Interesting reading material, especially the part about people who help with difficult husbands." For a moment, she just stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Then the defiance kicked in. "You went through my phone? That's a violation of privacy." "So is infidelity," I said mildly. "But hey, what do I know? I'm just a garbage man." Sherry's car pulled up to the curb, tires squealing as she took the corner too fast. She jumped out, leaving the engine running, and rushed to her sister's side. "Marcy called me," she said, shooting me a look that could have melted steel. "Pete, this is cruel, even for you." "Just doing my job," I said, raising my coffee mug in a mock toast. "Waste disposal is what I do best." "You fool," Sherry snarled. "Marcy's been nothing but a good wife to you, and this is how you repay her?" Unleashed, and the sound surprised even me. It was harsh, bitter, nothing like the man I'd been yesterday. "Good wife? Sherry, your sister's been screwing your boyfriend for 3 weeks. But I guess that's what passes for family values in your world." Sherry's mouth fell open. Marcy grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the car. "Don't listen to him," Marcy said. "He's having some kind of breakdown. We need to get out of here before he gets violent." "Violent?" I stood up slowly, and both women took a step back. "Ladies, I've never laid a hand on anyone in anger in my entire life. I don't need to. Violence is for people who can't think their way out of problems." More neighbors had emerged now, drawn by the drama playing out in my front yard. The Hendersons, the Kowalskis, even old Mr. Chen from the corner house. Nothing like a good domestic dispute to bring the community together. "Pete," Marcy tried one last time, her voice taking on the wheedling tone she used when she wanted something. "Can't we talk about this like adults? Inside?" "Relinquith. We're past talking," I said. "You made that choice when you started planning my disposal with your crypto boyfriend. Speaking of which, you might want to ask Trent about his family's business model. Turns out the apple doesn't fall far from the fraud tree." Sherry was loading trash bags into her car with frantic efficiency. "Come on, Marcy, we're leaving." "This isn't over, Pete," Sherry snarking. "This isn't over, Pete. We needed him. I'm just espied this." "This isn't over, Will faced on Sherry too," Marcy called as they drove away. "I'll take you for everything you've got." I waved cheerfully as their car disappeared around the corner. Mrs. Peterson was still standing in her driveway, clutching her newspaper like a shield. "Everything all right, Pete?" she called. "Never better, Mrs. Peterson. Just taking out the trash." The garbage truck rumbled down the street right on schedule. Jimmy Martinez, my old partner from before I moved up to supervisor, gave me a wave from the passenger seat. "Morning, Pete. Looks like you had a big cleanup." "You could say that," I called back. "Some garbage is harder to get rid of than others." As the truck moved on to the next house, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Freedom. For the first time in decades, I didn't have to pretend to be the good husband, the understanding partner, the man who accepted whatever scraps of affection and respect his wife chose to throw him. I was done being the sufferer in my own life. My phone buzzed with a text from Ralph Kowalski, my drinking buddy and the closest thing I had to a best friend. "Saw the show this morning. You okay?" "Ralph," I texted back. "Meet me at Murphy's tonight.
I've got a story to tell you."
Ralph had been a cop for 30 years before retiring, and he still had contacts throughout the city. If anyone could help me dig up dirt on Trent DeLuca, it would be him. But first, I had a full day of work ahead of me. Ironically, I'd never been more motivated to excel at waste management. I had a feeling I was going to need all the skills I could get. Murphy's Tavern hadn't changed in 20 years, which was exactly why I liked it. The same scarred wooden bar, the same flickering neon signs advertising beers that went out of business in the 80s, the same smell of stale cigarettes and broken dreams. Ralph was already there when I arrived, nursing a whiskey and staring at the baseball game on the ancient television mounted above the bar. He looked up as I slid onto the adjacent stool. "You look like hell," he said by way of greeting. "Feel worse," I admitted, signaling the bartender for a beer. "Thanks for coming." "Wouldn't miss it. Mrs. Peterson called my wife this morning, told her about the great garbage bag incident. Said you looked like a man with homicide in his eyes." Mrs. Peterson watches too much true crime television. Allergies. Ralph studied my face in the mirror behind the bar. "Maybe, but I've seen that look before, Pete. Usually right before someone does something spectacularly stupid." I took a long pull from my beer before answering. How stupid would it be to want revenge on a cheating wife and her con artist boyfriend? Depends on what kind of showers, unfortunately. Depends on what kind of experiences. Legal revenge? Stupid, but understandable. Illegal revenge? Just stupid. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshots I'd taken of Marcy's text messages. Ralph's expression grew darker with each image. "Jesus, Pete. How long has this been going on?" 3 weeks that I can prove. Probably longer. I scrolled to the message about people who help with difficult husbands. This is the part that worries me. Ralph's cop instincts kicked in immediately. "You think he's threatening you?" I think he's a small-time scammer who's in over his head with my wife. And desperate people do desperate things. I told him about the news article, Trent's panicked reaction, and the family connection to the Pittsburgh fraud case. "DeLuca," Ralph mused. "That name's familiar. Let me make some calls." He stepped outside to use his phone. He went them releasing pressures that they were supply. "Let me think it is love." "DeLuca," Ralph mysterized. "That name's familiar." He stepped outside to use his phone. He said he's stronger and then real things. "I think he will." "That name's familiar." "That name's familiar, but working the pressures that they were supply." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. He stepped outside to use calls with me. "That name's familiar." "I think he will." He stepped outside to use his phone. "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. "That name's familiar." "I think he will." He stepped outside to use his phone. "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. "That name's familiar." "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. He stepped outside to use his phone. He stepped outside to use his phone. "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. "That name's familiar." "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. "That name's familiar." "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. "That name's familiar." "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. "That name's familiar." "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. "That name's familiar." "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. "I think he will know." "That name's familiar." "I think he will know." "DeLuca," Ralph muses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. That name's familiar. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think you will know. The Luca, Ralph Mooses. I think outside to use his phone, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the drone of the baseball game. The Cubs were losing, which seemed appropriate. When Ralph returned, his expression was grim. "Your boy Trent is bad news," he said, settling back onto his stool. "Real name is Anthony DeLuca Jr. His father is currently serving 8 to 10 for securities fraud. Junior's been questioned in connection with 3 different investment scams in the past 5 years, but he's never been charged. Smart enough to stay just inside the legal lines. What about the threats? That's where it gets interesting. He's got connections to some unsavory characters. Nothing I can prove, but the kind of people who might be willing to help with a difficult husband problem, if you know what I mean." The beer suddenly tasted like sawdust in my mouth. "So, what do I do?" Ralph was quiet for a long moment, staring at his reflection in the bar mirror. "Officially, you file for divorce, document everything, and let the lawyers handle it. Unofficially," he turned to face me. "You're asking the wrong guy, Pete. I spent 30 years putting people in jail for taking the law into their own hands." "And unofficially?" Drained his whiskey and stood up. "Unofficially, some people need to be reminded that actions have consequences. But whatever you're thinking of doing, be smart about it. Don't give them ammunition to use against you." After Ralph left, I sat at the bar for another hour, nursing my beer and thinking. The smart play was exactly what he'd suggested. Lawyers, documentation, a clean, legal divorce. Take my lumps, split the assets, and move on with my life. But I've been taking lumps for 20 years. From Marcy, from her family, from everyone who looked at my job and decided I was somehow less than them. The smart play had gotten me a cheating wife and a threat to my life. Maybe it was time to try the stupid play. I paid my tab and walked out into the night, my mind already working through the possibilities. I had advantages that Trent and Marcy didn't know about. I knew the city like the back of my hand, from the executive boardrooms to the back alleys. I had contacts in every neighborhood, every business, every level of society. When you collect people's garbage for 20 years, you learn things about them they'd prefer to keep secret. And I had something else. Nothing left to lose. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Meet me at the old warehouse district tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Come alone. T." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "See you there." Time to find out just how far Farm warns that they were only Sue. Time to insistence, time to find out just how far Trent DeLuca was willing to go. The warehouse district had been dying a slow end for the past decade, a sufferer of changing economics and suburban sprawl. Half the buildings stood empty, their broken windows staring out like dead eyes. It was the perfect place for a conversation you didn't want anyone to overhear. I arrived early, parking my truck 3 blocks away and walking through the shadows between buildings. Old habits from my army days, before I'd settled into the comfortable routine of civilian life. Amazing how quickly the skills came back when you needed them. Trent was already there, standing next to a black BMW that probably cost more than I made in 2 years. He wasn't alone. 2 men flanked him, both wearing the kind of expensive suits that couldn't quite hide the bulge of shoulder holsters. "Pete," Trent called as I approached. "Thanks for coming." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, keeping my hands visible and my tone conversational. "Nice friends you've got there." "Business associates," he corrected. "We need to discuss your situation." "My situation?" "She's very unhappy, Pete. Has been for years, apparently. She wants out of the marriage, but she's concerned about your reaction." I laughed, and the sound echoed off the empty buildings. "My reaction? Trent, I put her stuff on the curb. I didn't burn down the house." "Yes, but that was just the beginning, wasn't it?" He stepped closer and I caught a whiff of expensive cologne mixed with nervous sweat. "Marcy's worried about what you might do next, especially given your military background. You've been doing your homework." "I protect my investments," he said. "And Marcy is important to me." "Important enough to threaten her husband?" One of his associates shifted slightly, and I caught a glimpse of the tool under his jacket. Professional-grade hardware, not the kind of thing you picked up at a pawn shop. "No threats," Trent said smoothly. "Just a business proposition. You give Marcy an uncontested divorce, keep your mouth shut about our relationship, and everyone walks away happy. And if I don't, then things get complicated. Marcy might have to file a restraining order, claim you threatened her, maybe got violent. With your military record and yesterday's incident, the courts would probably take her concerns seriously." I nodded slowly, as if considering his offer. "What about your crypto business? How does that factor into this arrangement?" Hips tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. Anthony DeLuca Jr., son of Anthony DeLuca Sr., currently enjoying the hospitality of the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections. 3 investment scam investigations. No convictions, but a lot of unhappy clients. Ring any bells?" The 2 associates exchanged glances. Apparently, they hadn't been briefed on their employer's legal troubles. "You don't know what you're talking about," Trent said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Maybe not, but I know people who do. Journalists, cops, federal investigators. Funny how interested they get when you mention cryptocurrency fraud and DeLuca in the same sentence." I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot of an email I'd sent earlier. Already reached out to the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. Told them I had information about a possible Ponzi scheme operating in the area. They seemed very interested. Trembling's face went white. "You son of a witch!" "Language, Anthony. There are professionals present." He lunged at me, but I was ready. 20 years of hauling garbage cans builds different muscles than 20 years of sitting behind a desk. I sidestepped his clumsy charge and watched him stumble into the side of his BMW. His associates moved to intervene, but I held up my hand. Gentlemen, before you do something we'll all regret, you should know that this entire conversation is being recorded. I tapped my phone. Audio and video, streaming live to a secure server. If something happens to me tonight, the recordings go automatically to the police, the FBI, and every news outlet in the city. His a bluff, but a convincing one. The two men hesitated, looking to Trent for guidance. He's lying, Trent snarled, but doubt had crept into his voice. Am I? Anthony, you've been in this business long enough to know that smart people take precautions. And despite what you and my wife think, I'm not stupid. I started backing away toward the shadows between buildings. Here's my counteroffer. You disappear. Tonight. Take whatever money you've got stashed away and find a new city, a new identity, a new scam. Because if I see you again, if you contact my wife again, if you so much as drive through my neighborhood again, I'll make sure every law enforcement agency in the country knows exactly where to find you. You can't threaten me, he said, but the fight had gone out of him. I'm not threatening you, Anthony. I'm educating you. There's a difference. Relinquent back into the darkness, leaving them standing in the circle of light from the BMW's headlights. I heard angry voices, car doors slamming, and the squeal of tires as they drove away. But I knew it wasn't over. Men like Trent DeLuca didn't back down from threats, especially when they had everything to lose. He'd be back, probably with a better plan and more dangerous friends. I needed to be ready for him. The call came at 3 a.m, jolting me out of the first decent sleep I'd had in days. Pete? Marcy's voice was slurred, either from booze or tears. Pete, I need help. I sat up in bed, instantly alert. Where are you? Unwilling. I don't know. Some motel. Pete, I think I made a mistake. What kind of mistake? Trent's not who I thought he was. He's... God, Pete, I'm so stupid. Despite everything she'd put me through, despite the betrayal and humiliation, I felt a flicker of the old protectiveness. Are you hurt? No, but I'm scared. He left me here with no money, no car. Just took off after he got some phone call. Said he had to handle some business. I was already getting dressed. What's the name of the motel? The Starlight, on Route 9. Let me there. I take the scratch. I thought that he is a little filter anywhere. The Starlight is quite B. I feel like the car was only 3. I felt that him to reflected. I felt that him to reflected. The Starlight. I felt on the city. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to reflected. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt that him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I felt at him to make sure what I thought me. I froze to 10,000. I have them with our fivers. I started out in 2023. I started to anything with our fivers. I started to the sun way and stored. I started to the internet with no tell. I started to the development to the stored. I started to the development to the stored. I started to the body and to the stored. I started to the new pressures of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of Trents. I started to the new forces of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of Trents. I started to the best partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. I started to the deal and partner of the stored. Pete, I know I don't have the right to ask, but I'll be there in 20 minutes. The Starlight Motel was exactly the kind of place you'd expect to find at 3 a.m. Flickering neon, broken dreams, and the lingering smell of industrial disinfectant that couldn't quite mask the odor of human desperation. Marcy was waiting in the parking lot, wrapped in a thin hotel bathrobe and shivering in the night air. She looked older than her 38 years, her makeup smeared and her hair disheveled. "Thank you for coming," she said as I pulled up. "Get in." We drove in silence for several minutes before she spoke again. "I'm sorry, Pete, for everything. You were right about Trent." "What happened?" "Exactly. Said we were going to celebrate our new beginning. Then he got a phone call and just changed. Started asking me questions about you, about your military service, about whether you owned any tools." My blood ran cold. "What did you tell him?" "Like Trent." "Why did you tell him?" My blood ran cold as she said, "We're just telling my friend. My Trent started my friends in Carefully Trust." My blood ran cold as she said, "Would you tell him? My friend is lest." My blood ran cold as she said, "Would you overtend and stuff like them? My friend is wrapped in the Mr. 7. I trust in my way." My blood ran cold. She said, "Would you overtend and stuff like them?" My blood ran cold. "I trust in my friend." My blood ran cold. She said, "Would you overtend and stuff like them? My friend is wrapped in the Mr. 7. My blood ran cold. She said, "Would you overtend and stuff like them? I trust in my way." My blood ran cold. Like Trent started my friend. My blood ran cold. "What did you tell him?" "The truth. That you hate violence. That you got rid of your service pistol years ago because you didn't want weapons in the house." She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Pete, I think he was planning to hurt you." "What makes you say that?" After the phone call, he started talking about how some problems require permanent solutions. He said you were becoming a liability that needed to be eliminated. I pulled into our driveway and turned off the engine. The house looked different somehow, smaller and shabbier than it had that morning. Marcy, I need you to pack a bag and stay with Sherry for a few days. Because if Trent's as dangerous as you think, then you're not safe either. You know too much about his business, his real name, his connections. Men like that don't leave loose ends. She stared at the house for a long moment. This is all my fault, isn't it? We both made mistakes. No, Pete. You got in the mess yourself. Myself. You married me. I made 20 years worth. I wanted to argue with her, to find some way to salvage something from the wreckage of our marriage. But sitting there in the pre-dawn darkness, I realized that some things were too broken to fix. Go pack your bag, I said. I'll drive you to Sherry's. She walked toward the house. I pulled out my phone and called Ralph. Jesus, Pete, it's 3 a.m. I need a favor, a big one. What kind of favor? That might keep me alive. The fundraiser for the new children's home is finally. For the new children's hospital wing was exactly the sort of event Marcy had always wanted to attend, but we'd never been able to afford. $500 a plate. Black tie required. The kind of gathering where the city's elite came to see and be seen while writing tax-deductible checks. I'd never owned a tuxedo, but Ralph's brother-in-law ran a formal wear shop and owed him a favor. The penguin suit fit well enough, and with a fresh haircut and shave, I looked almost respectable. Almost. The grand ballroom at the Riverside Hotel was everything I'd expected. Crystal chandeliers, white linen tablecloths, and enough diamonds to fund a small country's GDP. I felt like a wolf in a sheep pen, but that was exactly what I was counting on. Trent was there, of course, holding court at a table near the front of the room. He'd cleaned up nicely since our warehouse meeting, his hair perfectly styled, and his tuxedo probably worth more than my monthly salary. Marcy sat beside him, radiant in a silver gown I'd never seen before. She'd made her choice. I found my assigned seat at a table in the back, surrounded by other late additions to the guest list. The kind of people who'd bought their tickets at the last minute, usually through connections rather than invitations. Pete Hanlon? The woman next to me extended a manicured hand. I'm Jennifer Walsh, Channel 7 News. I understand you work in city services? Sanitation management, I confirmed, shaking her hand. How fascinating. I'm always interested in the people who keep our city running. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions for a story I'm working on? Relinquish. Depends on the story. Resigned. She smiled and I caught a glimpse of the hunter beneath the polished exterior. It's about public corruption, actually. Specifically, how certain individuals use city contracts and connections to facilitate illegal activities. This was it. The moment I'd been planning for 3 days, ever since Ralph had connected me with his journalist friend. Jennifer Walsh had been investigating financial crimes in the city for 2 years, and she was very interested in Anthony Trent DeLuca Jr. That does sound fascinating, I said. What kind of illegal activities? Investment fraud, mainly. Ponzi schemes targeting wealthy investors. The kind of thing that requires access to exclusive social events and high-end venues. She nodded toward the front of the room, where Trent was shaking hands with the mayor. For instance, we've been tracking a suspect who's been using events like this to identify potential sufferers. Someone with connections to organized crime and a family history of securities fraud. As the evening's program began, the hospital administrator took the stage, thanking everyone for their generous support and introducing the evening's speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored to have with us tonight one of the city's most successful young entrepreneurs, Mr. Trent DeLuca of DeLuca Financial Services. Trent stood and waved to the crowd, his smile bright enough to power the chandelier. He made his way to the stage with practiced confidence, every inch the successful businessman. Thank you so much for that warm welcome, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the sound system. I'm thrilled to be here tonight supporting such a worthy cause. As someone who's been blessed with financial success, I believe it's our responsibility to give back to the community that's given us so much. I pulled out my phone and opened the presentation app I'd spent the morning preparing. With a few taps, I connected to the hotel's wireless network and accessed the audio-visual system. The benefits of having friends in the IT department of the company that serviced the hotel's equipment. Children are our most precious resource, Trent continued, warming to his theme. They represent hope, innocence, and the promise of a better tomorrow. That's why I'm proud to announce that DeLuca Financial Services will be making a substantial donation to the hospital's expansion fund. The crowd applauded politely. Several people were already reaching for their checkbooks, inspired by his generosity. But before we talk about donations, I said quietly, pressing a button on my phone, let's talk about qualifications. The lights dimmed further, and the large screen behind Trent flickered to life. Instead of the hospital's promotional video, it showed a police booking photo of Anthony DeLuca Sr., along with newspaper headlines about his conviction for securities fraud. A murmur ran through the crowd. Trent spun around, his face going pale as he saw his father's mugshot projected 20 feet high behind him. Ladies and gentlemen, I continued, my voice now coming through the sound system as I'd connected my phone to the audio feed. I'd like you to meet the real Trent DeLuca. Born Anthony DeLuca Jr., son of convicted felon Anthony DeLuca Sr. The screen changed to show a series of news articles about investment scams, each one featuring a different photo of Trent under various aliases. Over the past 5 years, Mr. DeLuca has been investigated in connection with 3 separate Ponzi schemes, defrauding investors of over $2 million. Trent was frantically gesturing to the hotel staff, trying to get them to cut the power to the projection system. But Ralph's contacts in the hotel's security department had made sure that wouldn't be possible. His current operation involves targeting wealthy individuals at charity events and social gatherings, exactly like this one. He gains their trust with promises of extraordinary returns on cryptocurrency investments, then disappears with their money. The crowd was in full uproar now. Several people were on their phones, presumably calling lawyers or the police. Others were demanding their money back from investments they'd already made. Marcy was trying to drag Trent off the stage, but he was frozen in place, staring at the screen like a deer in headlights. And just to make things more interesting, I continued, Mr. DeLuca has been making threats against private citizens who've discovered his true identity. He's been known to associate with individuals connected to organized crime, and has specifically threatened violence against anyone who interferes with his operations. The final slide showed us screenshots of the text messages between Trent and Marcy, including the references to people who help with difficult husbands. Jennifer Walsh was frantically taking notes, her photographer capturing every moment of Trent's public humiliation. This would be front-page news tomorrow, and probably picked up by the national media within hours. Hotel security was moving toward the stage now, but they were too late. The damage was done. Trent DeLuca's career as a con artist in this city was officially over. I slipped out of the ballroom during the chaos, leaving my tuxedo jacket on the chair and walking calmly toward the parking garage. Behind me, I could hear shouting, sirens, and the general sound of a social event imploding in spectacular fashion. My phone buzzed with a text from Ralph. "Holy crap, Pete, that was beautiful. And completely insane." I typed back, "Just getting started. ... Because Trent DeLuca might be finished in this city, but he wasn't finished with me. Men like him didn't accept defeat gracefully, and I just humiliated him in front of 500 of the city's most influential people. He'd be coming for me, and when he did, I'd be ready." The attack came 2 nights later, exactly as I'd expected. I was in my garage, working on my truck's transmission, when I heard the sound of car doors slamming in the driveway. 3 men, moving with the kind of coordinated precision that suggested military or police training. But these weren't cops. I'd been expecting them since the fundraiser, and I'd spent the intervening time preparing. The garage was wired with motion sensors, connected to a series of floodlights that would turn night into day at the flip of a switch. Hidden cameras recorded everything to a secure server off-site, and Ralph was parked 2 blocks away with a clear view of my house, ready to call in backup if things went sideways. "Pete Hanlon?" The voice came from just outside the garage door. Professional, calm, the tone of a man who'd done this kind of work before. "That's me," I called back, not moving from my position under the truck. "You gentlemen need something?" "We need to talk. I'm listening." Face to face would be better. I slid out from under the truck and stood up slowly, wiping my hands on a shop rag. Through the garage's side window, I could see 3 figures silhouetted against the streetlights. About what? You've been causing problems for a mutual friend. He'd like you to stop. Which friend would that be? You know. I walked to the garage door and hit the switch to raise it. The 3 men were exactly what I'd expected. Expensive suits, dead eyes, and the kind of physical conditioning that came from a lifetime of violence. Trent DeLuca, I said. How's he holding up after his public debut the other night? The leader, a tall man with graying hair and scars on his knuckles, smiled without humor. Not well. He's had to leave town rather suddenly. But before he left, he asked us to deliver a message. I'm all ears. The message is that some mistakes have left in the physical concept of living with us. The message is the third billions of Trentsburg and state, unless is that some mistakes have permanent consequences. And you've made a very big mistake. I nodded thoughtfully. You know, you're absolutely right. I have made a mistake. A big one. Good. Then we understand each other. Oh, we understand each other perfectly. My mistake was thinking that 3 professionals would be stupid enough to threaten a man in his own garage without checking for security cameras. Expelled to the small devices mounted in each corner of the garage, their red recording lights clearly visible. Smile, gentlemen. You're on candid camera. Leader's smile faltered. Cameras can be destroyed. These cameras stream directly to a secure server. Even if you destroy them, the footage is already preserved, along with audio of you admitting that you're here to deliver threats on behalf of Anthony DeLuca Jr. You think you're smart, the second man said, speaking for the first time. He was younger than the leader, with the kind of build that suggested serious time in a gym. Smart enough, I agreed. Smart enough to know that you gentlemen are professionals, which means you don't work for free. And smart enough to know that Trent DeLuca doesn't have the money to pay for the kind of work you usually do. I pulled out my phone and showed them a screenshot of a news article. See, while you've been driving over here to threaten me, the FBI has been executing search warrants on Mr. DeLuca's various business properties. Turns out, my little presentation the other night gave them probable cause to move forward with their investigation. The leader's face was stone, but I caught a flicker of concern in his eyes. They seized his computers, his financial records, and about $3 million in various cryptocurrency accounts, which means your employer is currently broke, on the run, and facing federal charges for securities fraud. I put the phone away and leaned against my workbench. So, here's my question, gentlemen. Are you really willing to commit felony attack on behalf of a client who probably can't pay you? Because I guarantee that's what this will become if you take one step closer to me. The third man, who hadn't spoken yet, was looking around the garage with professional interest. He'd spotted the motion sensors, the additional cameras, and probably the panic button I'd installed near the workbench. He's prepared, he said quietly. Very prepared, I agreed. See, the thing about working in waste management is that you learn to plan ahead. You identify problems before they become crises. And you always have an exit strategy. I hit the switch for the floodlights, and the entire area around my house lit up like a football stadium. Neighbors' windows began lighting up as people woke up to investigate the commotion. Right about now, my friend Ralph is calling 911 to report suspicious activity at my address. The police will be here in about 3 minutes, which gives you just enough time to get back in your car and drive away. The leader stared at me for a long moment, weighing his options. Professional butchers don't like complications, and I just handed him a garage full of them. This isn't over, he said finally. Yes, it is, because tomorrow morning copies of tonight's security footage go to the FBI, along with a detailed report about Trent DeLuca's associates and their methods. Your faces will be in a federal database by lunchtime. Tyler, they backed toward their car, moving with the careful precision of hunters who'd suddenly found themselves outmaneuvered. Oh, and gentlemen, I called after them, next time someone hires you to threaten a garbage man, you might want to remember that we know where all the bodies are buried. Literally. Their car disappeared into the night just as the first police cruiser turned onto my street. I waved to the officers and went back into my garage to finish working on my truck. Tomorrow, I'd file a report with the FBI about the threats. The day after that, I'd probably testify before a federal grand jury about Trent DeLuca's criminal enterprise. But tonight, I'd won. For the first time in 20 years, I'd stood up to the people who wanted to destroy me, and I'd won. It felt better than I'd expected. The divorce papers arrived on a Thursday morning, delivered by a process server who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else in the world. Pete Hanlon? That's me. You've been served, discharged for the papers, and waited until he'd driven away before opening the envelope. Marcy was asking for half of everything. The house, my pension, my savings, even my truck. She was also claiming emotional distress and seeking damages for mental anguish caused by defendants' erratic and threatening behavior. Relinquid, I was reading through the list of demands when my phone rang. Pete, this is David Morrison from Morrison, Klein & Associates. I represent your wife in the divorce proceedings. Corrections. I'm calling to see if we can reach an amicable settlement without going to court. Mrs. Hanlon is prepared to be reasonable if you're willing to cooperate. Define reasonable. She'll accept 40% of the marital assets instead of 50%, and she'll drop the emotional distress claims in exchange for a quick, uncontested divorce. I laughed, and Morrison's tone grew chilly. Mr. Hanlon, I should warn you that if this goes to trial, things could get very unpleasant for you. Your wife has documented a pattern of increasingly erratic behavior, including destruction of property, stalking, and public humiliation. Is that what she's calling it? She has witnesses, Mr. Hanlon. People who saw you bag up her belongings and put them on the curb. People who can testify about your obsessive behavior regarding her personal relationships. What about her witnesses to the infidelity? Morrison paused. I'm not sure what you mean. I mean the 3 weeks of documented infidelity with Anthony DeLuca Jr., currently wanted by the FBI for securities fraud. I mean the text messages discussing plans to eliminate her difficult husband. I mean the photographs she sent to her boyfriend, some of which were taken in my house, in my bed. The silence stretched for nearly 30 seconds. Mr. Hanlon, even if such evidence existed, infidelity is rarely a significant factor in no-fault divorce proceedings. Maybe not, but it's a very significant factor in criminal conspiracy charges. I beg your pardon? Your client conspired with a known felon to commit fraud, and she participated in plans to threaten and potentially damage her husband. That makes her an accessory to federal crimes. I could hear papers rustling on Morrison's end of the line. Mr. Hanlon, I think there may be some misunderstanding here. Perhaps we should schedule a meeting to discuss this more thoroughly. No misunderstanding, counselor. Your client made her choices, and now she gets to live with the consequences. If she wants a divorce, she can have one. But she's not getting a penny from me, and if she tries to claim emotional distress, I'll make sure every sordid detail of her affair becomes public record. I hung up and called my own lawyer, a bulldog named Patricia Chen, who specialized in men's rights in divorce proceedings. Pat, it's Pete Hanlon. I just got served. Expecting this, how bad is it? She wants everything, plus damages for emotional distress. Pat laughed. Based on what you've told me about her extracurricular activities, she's got about as much chance of collecting damages as I do of winning the lottery. When do you want to meet? This afternoon. And Pat, bring your camera. I've got some evidence to show you that's going to make this very interesting. The meeting with Pat went exactly as I'd hoped. She looked through the screenshots of Marcy's text messages, the security footage from the fundraiser, and the police reports from the threats against me. Pete, this is a prosecutor's dream and a divorce attorney's nightmare. Your wife isn't just an adulteress, she's a co-conspirator in multiple felonies. So what's our strategy? We offer her a choice. She can accept a simple no-fault divorce with no alimony and no property settlement. Or we can turn all of this evidence over to the FBI and let them decide whether to charge her as an accessory to fraud and conspiracy. You think she'll take the deal? Pat smiled, and I was reminded why she had a reputation as the toughest divorce lawyer in the city. She'll take it, because the alternative is a federal prison sentence, and even Marcy isn't that stupid. The call came the next morning. Morrison's voice was carefully controlled, but I could hear the defeat underneath. Mr. Hanlon, My client has reconsidered her position. She's prepared to accept a simple dissolution of marriage with no property settlement or alimony claims. Smart woman. However, she does have one request. She'd like to retrieve some personal items from the house: jewelry, photographs, things of sentimental value. Melting. She can have whatever fits in one suitcase, but she's not coming alone, and she's not staying longer than 30 minutes. Plunge read. When would be convenient? This afternoon, 2 o'clock. And counselor? Make sure she understands that this is a one-time offer. If she tries to change the terms or drag this out, all bets are off. Mess. Marcy arrived exactly on time, accompanied by Morrison and a paralegal who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. She'd lost weight since I'd last seen her, and there were dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. Hello, Pete. Treffy. She looked around the living room like she was seeing it for the first time. The house looks good. You've been taking care of it. Someone had to. Relink terminated. She went upstairs to pack her suitcase while Morrison and I waited in awkward silence. When she came back down, her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For all of it. You deserved better. Yes, I did. She flinched at the coldness in my voice, but she didn't argue. Morrison handed me the final divorce papers to sign, and just like that, 20 years of marriage were officially over. After they left, I sat in my living room and looked around at the house that was finally, completely mine. It felt bigger somehow, like a weight had been lifted from the walls themselves. My phone buzzed with a text from Ralph. How did it go? Relinquicked. I typed back, It's over. She's gone. Impartial. How do you feel? Relinquished missile. I thought about that for a long moment. How did I feel? Relieved, certainly. Vindicated, absolutely. But there was something else, something I hadn't expected. Free. For the first time in decades, I was completely, utterly free to be exactly who I wanted to be. No more apologizing for my job, my income, my blue-collar lifestyle. No more walking on eggshells around someone who saw me as a disappointment. I was 50 years old, divorced, and starting over from scratch. And I'd never been happier in my life. But happiness, I was about to learn, was a luxury I couldn't afford just yet, because Trent DeLuca wasn't done with me. The news broke on a Tuesday morning. Federal fugitive captured in dramatic standoff. Anthony Trent DeLuca Jr. had been arrested in Miami, trying to board a private jet to the Cayman Islands with 2 suitcases full of cash and a fake passport. The FBI had tracked him down using financial records seized during their raids on his various business fronts. I was reading the article over my morning coffee when my phone rang. Pete, this is Special Agent Sarah Martinez, FBI Financial Crimes Division. We need to talk. I was sitting in a sterile conference room at the Federal Building downtown, facing 2 agents and a prosecutor who looked like she'd stepped out of a law school recruiting poster. Mr. Hanlon, Agent Martinez began. We understand you had several interactions with Mr. DeLuca prior to his arrest. Jeng, you could say that. We'd like you to walk us through those interactions, starting with when you first became aware of his criminal activities. I told them everything. The dinner party, the news article about his father, the warehouse meeting, the threats from his associates. They took notes, asked follow-up questions, and occasionally exchanged glances that suggested they were getting information they hadn't expected. The fundraiser incident, the prosecutor said. That was quite a public revelation. How did you obtain the financial records you displayed? Misled. Public information. Court documents from his father's case. News articles about the various investigations. Nothing that wasn't already in the public domain. Misunderstand. But the presentation itself, the way you access the hotel's audio-visual system. I have friends in the IT business. They help me with the technical aspects. Selfish. Agent Martinez leaned forward. Mr. Hanlon, we need to ask you about the threats made against you. Can you identify any of the men who came to your house? I pulled out my phone and showed them screenshots from the security footage. All 3 of them, in high definition. The agents looked at the images, then at each other. We know these men, the second agent said. Vincent Torino, Michael Castellano, and James Jimmy the Fish Marconi. They're connected to the Torino crime family out of Philadelphia. Shall. Connected how? Relinquith. They're enforcers, the kind of people you hire when you need someone to disappear permanently. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mr. Hanlon, the prosecutor said carefully, we believe you are in serious danger. These men don't usually make social calls. But they left. This time. But Mr. DeLuca is still facing federal charges, and he's already demonstrated a willingness to use violence to protect his interests. We think you should consider entering witness protection until the trial is over. Lorska, and the sound echoed off the conference room walls. Agent Martinez, I've spent 20 years picking up garbage in this city. I know every street, every alley, every hiding place. If someone wants to find me, they will, whether I'm in witness protection or not. Then what do you suggest? I suggest we end this once and for all. The prosecutor frowned. What do you mean? I mean we set a trap. Use me as bait to draw out DeLuca's remaining associates. Get them on tape making more threats, and put them away for good. Absolutely not, Agent Martinez said immediately. That's far too dangerous. More dangerous than spending the rest of my life looking over my shoulder? Mr. Hanlon, these are professional butchers. And I'm a professional garbage man. We both know how to handle things that stink. The meeting went on for another hour, but I could see I was wearing them down. The FBI wanted DeLuca's associates as much as I did, and they knew that a recorded confession of conspiracy to commit homicide would guarantee convictions. Finally, Agent Martinez sighed. If we were to consider such an operation, it would have to be completely controlled. Full surveillance, backup teams, recording equipment, whatever you need. Shameful. And you'd have to follow our instructions exactly. No improvisation, no heroics. I'm not a hero, Agent Martinez. I'm just a man who's tired of being pushed around. 3 days later, the plan was in motion. The setup was elegant in its simplicity. I would resume my normal routine, making myself visible and vulnerable. The FBI would monitor my movements and wait for DeLuca's associates to make their move. When they did, federal agents would be recording every word, every threat, every admission of criminal intent. What could go wrong? As it turned out, everything. The first sign of trouble came on Thursday evening. I was at Murphy's Tavern, having my usual post-work beer, when Vincent Torino walked through the door. He didn't see me immediately, but I recognized him from the security footage. 6'2", gray hair, and the kind of dead eyes that suggested he'd seen too much violence in his lifetime. I casually reached for my phone to signal the FBI surveillance team, but Torino was already moving toward my table. Pete Hanlon? That's me. Mind if I sit down? He didn't wait for an answer, sliding into the booth across from me with the fluid grace of a hunter. The wire I was wearing felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Nice place, he said, looking around the bar. Quiet, private, the kind of place where a man can have a conversation without being interrupted. What kind of conversation? The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation with Me Trouble concepts. The kind where I was moving the other concepts. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your faith with within place as well. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. The kind where we discuss your recent cooperation without the criminal intent. Discuss your recent cooperation with federal law enforcement. My blood turned to ice water. They knew about the FBI that I knew about the Fundum, so. My blood turned ice water. They knew about the FBI. I could see that I knew about the Lang with a few world. They knew about the FBI investigation. I don't know what you're talking about. Torino smiled, and it was like watching a shark bare its teeth. Mr. Hanlon, let's not insult each other's intelligence. You've been working with the FBI to build a case against my former employer. You've provided them with evidence, testimony, and access to various electronic communications. Former employer? Missiles. Mr. DeLuca's services are no longer required. He's become what we call a liability. So why are you here? Because liabilities need to be managed, and you, Mr. Hanlon, have become a very significant liability. He reached into his jacket and I tensed, ready to dive for cover. but instead of a tool, he pulled out a manila envelope. Inside this envelope, you'll find photographs of your son's apartment, his workplace, his girlfriend's house. You'll also find a detailed schedule of his daily activities. My vision went red around the edges. If you touch my son, that's entirely up to you. Torino's voice remained conversational, as if we were discussing the weather. You have a choice to make. You can continue cooperating with the federal investigation, in which case your son will suffer a series of increasingly unfortunate accidents. Or you can develop a sudden case of amnesia about everything you think you know. And if I choose amnesia, then your son continues his happy, healthy life, and you go back to collecting garbage without any further interference from us. I stared at the envelope, my mind racing. The FBI surveillance team was listening to every word, but they were positioned outside the bar. If Torino had already identified my son's location, they might have people watching him right now. How do I know you won't hurt him anyway? Because dead witnesses create investigations, and investigations create problems. We prefer solutions that don't involve unnecessary attention from law enforcement. Smithy stood up, leaving the envelope on the table. You have 24 hours to make your decision. After that, the choice will be made for you. As he walked away, I grabbed the envelope and tore it open. Inside were dozens of photographs. My son Ben leaving his apartment, walking to work, kissing his girlfriend goodbye. Someone had been watching him for days, maybe weeks. I was still staring at the photos when Agent Martinez slid into the booth across from me. We got it all on tape, she said quietly. Conspiracy, extortion, threats against a federal witness. We can arrest him right now. And then what happens to my son? We'll put him in protective custody. For how long? 6 months? A year? The rest of his life? Martinez didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. There has to be another way, I said. There is. We end this tomorrow night. How? She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. We're going to give Vincent Torino exactly what he wants. A chance to eliminate his liability problem permanently. The plan she outlined was insane, dangerous, and probably illegal. It was also the only chance I had to protect my son and put these fools away for good. Are you in? She asked. I looked at the photographs of Ben scattered across the table, then at Agent Martinez's determined face. I'm in. Friday night arrived with a thunderstorm that seemed to shake the entire city. Rain hammered against the windows of my house as I made my final preparations, checking and rechecking every detail of the plan Agent Martinez had outlined. The setup was deceptively simple. I would be alone in my house, apparently unprotected and vulnerable. Torino and his associates would make their move, expecting to find an easy target. Instead, they'd walk into a carefully orchestrated trap designed to capture their confessions and their crimes on federal recording equipment. What could go wrong? At 9 o'clock, I turned off all the lights except for the lamp in my living room window, the signal that I was home and alone. FBI surveillance teams were positioned throughout the neighborhood, invisible but ready to move at the first sign of trouble. At 9:15, my motion sensors detected movement in the backyard. At 9:20, I heard the sound of my back door being quietly forced open. They were inside. I sat in my living room chair, pretending to read a newspaper, while 3 armed men crept through my house. The wire taped to my chest felt like it was burning against my skin, but I forced myself to remain calm. Good evening, Mr. Hanlon. Vincent Torino stepped into my living room, flanked by his 2 associates. All 3 were wearing gloves and dark clothing, and all 3 were armed. Gentlemen, I said, not looking up from my newspaper. You're early. We're punctual. Have you made your decision? I have. And? I folded the newspaper carefully and set it aside. I've decided that you can go straight to hell. Torino's expression didn't change, but his associates shifted nervously. That's unfortunate. For your son. My son is fine. He's in federal protective custody as of 6 hours ago. No, Mr. Hanlon, he's not. Torino pulled out his phone and, bitter than whim, Ben, tied to a chair in what looked like an abandoned warehouse, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. We collected him this afternoon. He's being held at a secure location. and his continued well-being depends entirely on your cooperation. The bottom fell out of my world. The FBI had promised me Ben was safe, that he was under federal protection. But somehow, these fools had gotten to him anyway. What do you want? First, you're going to call your FBI friends and tell them you've reconsidered your testimony. You're going to withdraw your cooperation with their investigation. Then we're going to take a little drive. You're going to have an unfortunate accident. The kind that happens to careless people who don't watch where they're walking near construction sites. My son will join you, eventually. Rage flooded through me, hot and pure and cleansing. These animals had threatened my family, invaded my home, and now they were planning to eliminate both me and my son. But rage wasn't going to save us. Only careful planning and cold execution would do that. All right, I said, reaching for my phone. I'll make the call. But instead of calling the FBI, I pressed the app that activated my home security system. Floodlights blazed to life outside, illuminating the entire neighborhood like a football stadium. Sirens wailed, and recorded warnings began broadcasting from speakers mounted on my roof. Attention! This property is under surveillance. Police have been notified. Leave the premises immediately. Torinos toward the window, cursing. What the hell? Welcome to my house, I said, standing up slowly. You gentlemen have just committed breaking and entering, armed burglary, abduction, and conspiracy to commit homicide. All of it recorded in high definition and transmitted directly to the FBI. So sound of car doors slamming came from outside. Through the window, I could see FBI agents taking positions around the house, their weapons drawn. You son of a witch, Torino snarled, raising his tool. You set us up. Yes, I did. And in about 30 seconds, this place is going to be crawling with federal agents. So you have a choice to make. You can surrender peacefully, or you can try to shoot your way out and spend the rest of your very short life in a federal prison. What about your son? I smiled, and I knew it wasn't a pleasant expression. My son is fine. The photograph you showed me was taken 3 months ago, during a college theater production. Ben was playing a abduction sufferer in a student film. The FBI helped me identify the location from the background details. Tinping Reno's face went white. That's impossible. You underestimated me, Vincent. Just like everyone else has been doing for the past 20 years. You saw a garbage man and assumed I was stupid. But stupid people don't survive 20 years in waste management, and they sure as hell don't outsmart professional criminals. The front door exploded inward, and FBI agents flooded into the house. Torino and his associates were on the ground in handcuffs before they could even think about resisting. Agent Martinez appeared at my side, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. Outstanding work, Mr. Hanlon. We got everything on tape. Conspiracy, abduction, attempted homicide, racketeering. These guys are going away for the rest of their lives. What about DeLuca? He'll probably cut a deal to testify against his former associates. But with what we recorded tonight, we don't really need him. You just handed us the entire Torino crime family on a silver platter. As the agents led the prisoners away, I stood in my living room and looked around at the wreckage. Broken furniture, muddy footprints, and the lingering smell of fear and violence. But it was over. Finally, completely, utterly over. My phone buzzed with a text from Ben. Dad, the FBI agents say it's safe to come home. Are you okay? Typed back. I'm fine, son. Come home. As I waited for him to arrive, I poured myself a beer and sat down in my favorite chair. Outside, the storm was beginning to clear, and I could see stars appearing between the clouds. For the first time in months, I felt something I'd almost forgotten. Peace. The garbage man had won.